Yo, what's up, fam? Hey, we are here today to talk about your will. We're talking about how you have the right to self-determination. But guess what? If your mouth ain't moving and you ain't recorded those words, you really don't have any self-determination because your self-determination ended when you stopped talking. A lot of times people live, but when they die, they have no sense of that self-determination because they didn't record anything. I'm not talking about any legal documents, but we're going to talk about your will today. No, I do not give legal advice, but we're talking about your will as far as we're talking about your wisdom, your intellect, your laughter, culminating into your legacy. All right, that's what we're talking about today. So we're talking about the legacy video project, something that I do, and it's something that I think that you should be interested in. Every person in the world should have some sense of their will being passed on intentionally. So before we dive too deeply, I'm talking about life lessons and how they're often lost because the busyness of life. It's time for us to slow down and do what's important. In the military, we had this MOS called 42 Alpha, which is basically their admin specialist. I don't know what the MOS is or the number, the alphanumeric is right now, but I know when I was in, it was a 42 Alpha. And basically they took care of all of the administrative things so that our hearts can be at ease, so our minds can be at ease, so we know that we getting paid when we're supposed to get paid. Those are the people that kind of provided us peace, because when we signed something, we had this feeling of assurance that once we signed it, everything is good. That once we took care of it, everything is good. Going out to war and going out to training exercises and things like that, you really can't be at peace unless all your stuff is just taken care of. The old school people talk about your house being in order. The military call it your Smith file and your SGLI, all of that being in order. So we're not talking about having your stuff in order in that way, but having your life in order enough that your voice makes a difference now and in the future. But if you don't express or impose or talk about or leave behind your will, which is your wisdom, your intellect, your laughter, you will not have a real legacy. We all leave something behind, but it won't be intentional. I'm talking about being intentional. I ain't talking about practice. This ain't practice. I ain't talking about practice, man. I'm talking about being intentional. That was probably a horrible example of a throwback of Allen Iverson. Got a real quick quote for you. Legacy is not what you leave behind, but what you pass forward. And a lot of times, I know when I was teaching in the military, we always talk about two sides of a coin, heads and tails. So when we're talking about the other side of a coin, it's more than one way to look at something. When I'm talking about looking at, leaving something behind, it seems to be a bit morbid a lot of times. And people just don't like to say it. But I've done like market analysis. And in those market analysis, a lot of people tell me offline, but not necessarily while, when I was actually writing things down and recording, that talking about their legacy made them feel like they're going to die. But that's really not the case. You got to look at it as if you're not leaving something behind. You are passing something forward. And the difference between leaving and passing a lot of times is when you leave something, sometimes you made a mistake, sometimes you forgot in that context. But if you pass something, that means you have a destination in mind. You have a target in mind. And if your target is to not only talk to and, enjoy your family now, but just imagine your kids enjoying you 20 years from now and you're still alive. You have your faculties all about you. You have all your thoughts, your personality at that age. But guess what? You are an evolving person. You are a growing person. Imagine the 2-year-old, soon to turn 23 because it's going to happen. Imagine them seeing you and hearing those words from when they were a baby to when they're older. It has a totally different impact. Totally different impact. They know papa, they know mom, they know dad, they know your aunt, uncle. They know that you as that person love them. But at that age, they couldn't receive it or comprehend it as they do when they're an adult. So that's why I'm talking about your will. You want to pass on your wisdom. And I love to give examples or give backing for, people leaving wisdom, not in a way that's ambiguous, but in a way that is very obvious. Check this out. Listen to this. Wisdom is a defense as money is a defense. But the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom gives life to them that have it. So if you have life, the words that I'm giving you is going to give you life, or more life, so to speak, allow you to live in what those wise words are actually saying. That's pretty dope. Like, you would think that wisdom would give life to those that are lifeless. No, wisdom will give life and understanding to those who have it. So in order to, if you want your family or your friends or whoever to live like an abundant life, or to live a life that is, full, then you want to give them wisdom. And the way you can do that is through a legacy video. And wisdom is important. Wisdom is more precious than gold, is rather to be chosen than choice silver. A good name is better than all that stuff, because if you give somebody wisdom, they know how to apply things. They know how to apply knowledge so that they can get things that they don't have or don't have access to. That's why it's important for you and me to do things intentionally. I'm not saying, you don't do spontaneous things, but you have to do things with intent. Anything done in excellence is done with intent. Anything done with intention is usually worth watching. You don't find a movie director just wake up one day with a camera and a crew and just shoot from the hip. No, they shoot according to a script, because they're trying to pass something on that they feel is important, or tell a story that they feel is important. And what's more important than, your story, Well, matter of fact, I got you because I got 3 objections that I often hear when it comes to purposely leaving behind a legacy that's full of wisdom. We haven't even got to the intellect part. We haven't got to the laughter, and we haven't even got to legacy. We haven't even gotten there. But the wisdom by itself is just so deep. It hits so hard. You know what I mean? So let me hit these 3 objections because out the gate, I don't like when people kind of they seem to be smart, they seem to be wise, but they're real dumb, real stupid. Don't make the obvious choice. You know what I mean? So I want to help those out who kind of fall in that category. I don't know what category you fall in, but if you fall in that category, trust me, nobody got to know that I told you. Nobody got to know that you made the change or you made the switch. But check this out. Number 1, I'm not interesting. Number 2, I don't like how I sound, or I don't like how I look. And number 3 is probably I ain't gonna say the worst one, but number 3 is just number 3. And that is, I'll do it later. Come on, man. How many times have we said that? Like that's the biggest cop out in the world. No. And the truth is we all have stories of people who say later, and later never comes. So number 1, you say you're not interesting. Trust me, every person is interesting. It just depends on what lens or what angle that you look at, that person, to see if they're interesting. And number 1 is, your family don't care if you feel like you're interesting, because the truth is you are interesting, and you are not a movie script. You're a real person. This is not Hollywood. This is life. All right. This is as plain as it gets. So number 1 is you have to live in reality, which is the truth. You are interesting. It's just the fact that maybe you don't like some things about yourself or how you articulate that, but that's just one view. But I can guarantee you, I'll put all money. Matter of fact, I always tell people that I put 3 checks on it, that your family and your friends do not see you like that. That's just a cop out. That's an excuse. Number 2 is you don't like how you look or like how you sound. You know what? That's just something that everyone has to get used to. They don't like how they look or like how they sound, but it never stopped you from doing what you do. Matter of fact, if you're married, it never stopped you from getting, your spouse, not liking how you sound. It never stopped you from singing in the shower. You know what I mean? So don't use that as an excuse, because it's really not a valid excuse. Your family doesn't care about perfection. Your family cares about your voice. Your family cares about how you are uniquely you. And that's all the reason in the world to record your own voice, record your personality. You know what I mean? Like, trust me, I know that if you were like in a room with, one person, or if in a room with 20 people, you know how to interact and make that person laugh and make that person, get to a heart to heart type conversation. And you've made an impact and an imprint on that person. So that excuse, it really doesn't work. And last one, we already know this one. I'll do it later. When you say I'll do it later, that means you're not doing it at all. And that's just a fact. And you don't want to be that person who continues to live in regret. Matter of fact, it's been a series of things going on that I really don't like. And in this case, it may seem to be morbid, because I had friends who are in my class, or as far as high school class, who've passed away recently. And you look at them, you're like, man, that person seemed to be so healthy, but you don't know what intricately goes on in their life or in their health and things like that. But I can guarantee you, according to normal statistics, that they probably fell into this category. Not just that person. I'm just saying people in general. This is like general statistics. Number one is that families fight without a will. Number two, families often find that will hard to locate or never locate it. And the last one is that over 60% of Americans die without a will being in place. And no, I'm not talking about a legal thing, but I'm talking about you passing on your wisdom. All right. You're passing on your intellect. All right. In a intellectual, in a logical way. I'm also talking about laughter. Like, we love to hear people laugh. I love to laugh. You know what? I love to laugh, and I love to hear other people laugh, because laughter, it kind of like gives you this bubbly feeling of life. And it's a way to express, joy. And a lot of times, sometimes, we don't say it often, but it's also a way to express pain. But God has blessed us as humanity to have all these emotions so that we will express these emotions and not just keep them to ourselves. They're to be expressed. And this right here is your legacy. When you telling stories and life lessons and things like that, I don't know if you heard the phrase that whenever you go through hell, you are to be a tour guide for those that are coming behind you. Or when you love someone so dearly or so deeply, you don't want them to experience some of the pain that you had. So those are just life lessons. Now, everybody has to go through the process on their own. And I was that guy, didn't listen to my parents for everything that I did, or, that they're all of their wisdom. But for the most part, the cool part is I had older siblings, which I can look at them and see all the wrong that they did, that my road was a little bit easier. And if I pass that on to my kids or to my friends and to anybody that I've actually run into, it makes their life a lot better. And guess what? I give it away for free 99, because as you run into people, you interact with people, and a lot of times we want the best for people. And a lot of times it just exudes from you, whether you're doing it intentionally or not. It's the fact that we're human, we love to share, and we love stories. And don't ever sleep on your own story or the story of your family. I'm just encouraging you right now that you really, really want to tap into this, tap into leaving your will behind, because, a lot of people don't do it. A lot of people want to do it, and we have the power to do it. But a lot of times we don't feel like we actually have that opportunity to actually do that. Now let's jump into intellect. Intellect is what actually shapes, our experiences. It shapes our encounters, our interactions. It shapes our beliefs. It shapes our values. And anything that you build upon, it becomes a system. So our value system, our belief system is all based off of the information or our intellect. So that's why you want to share these things, man. You don't want to just hoard up things as if, if you hold on to it, you can take it to the next location. You can't. Everything that God has given you as far as your intellect, your knowledge, is to be shared and to be passed on. And passing and leaving are not the same. I will leave something behind because I forgot it. When I pass something, I'm doing it with intention. And that's why it's important for us to be intentional. Laughter is humor, these joyous moments. I guarantee you that people, matter of fact, I ain't gonna say I guarantee you, because I don't know like what people are eating and, and what kind of situations they put themselves into. But there is hard fact and statistics to show that people who laugh and enjoy life, they live a more prosperous, a more satisfying life. And guess what? They live longer. So why don't you crack a few jokes, put it on tape, record it, and pass that on so that others can know your joy, others can know your humor and things like that. It's important to do these things. Not in the way of a convincing, but it's important just because when you look at the things that you value, you laugh about a lot of times because they brought you joy in life. I'll tell you, this is so funny. As a matter of fact, my childhood was so filled with laughter at times. I'm not saying I didn't cry or like it was no pain. My childhood had some pain to it. As a matter of fact, you don't just laugh and enjoy, a parent dying early. You know what I mean? That's what happened to me. But in the midst of all of that, I would laugh about all of the things that my mom would recall, those experiences that I had when I was with her and she was with me for the short period of time. I would laugh at the fact that even now when I see kids who are like, don't take care of things or destructive, I think about my mom. She used to call us Destructicons. That's just funny to me, man. Like, who's mom running around calling kids Destructicons? And that's because we used to tear some stuff up, when we were younger. When you're young, you don't appreciate things because you're just young. You don't even have a clue of what value is. It's either your parents get you something and you adore it or you don't. And if you don't, then you tear it up. But anyway, I just love the fact that I was a Destructicon, and that's something I laugh about today. I laugh about phrases that my mom would have, when we would like drink out of our pop bottles, and you get backwash. But my mom used to call it scuba diver. She was like, I don't want to drink after you, leaving those scuba divers up in there. But those are some things that, you pass on because it just makes you laugh. It makes you enjoy life. It brings joy to other people. So that's why it's important just to leave that laughter and pass that laughter on. It's important to know and value right now because, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, trust me, everything that you say and you laugh at, it's going to hit different, and it may hit different in more of a way of nostalgia, but guess what? It's going to bring laughter and joy to those that, find you interesting. And the last thing is legacy. Your legacy is what you pass on. You can pass on your faith. You can pass on, number one is like genetically, you've already passed on something that's physical. But you pass on the characteristics that you display in front of people. You pass on anything that is a part of you. And that's just right there is just your legacy as a whole. It's your experience. It's your voice. For me, because I was in the military for so long, some stuff that I don't even call significant, others will say are extraordinary. Me, I was jumping out of airplanes, but if you just tell somebody, matter of fact, I don't even talk about it much because it's not like that was what I did all day, every day, but it was an experience and I was training for something. And we always prepared to do things like that, like going into war. But that's extraordinary to some people, but for you, it's just mundane, but that's part of your legacy. You know what I mean? So don't ever count yourself out because people are counting on you and they love you. A lot of times, the only person counting you out, either an enemy or it's yourself. So I'm just going to encourage you, do not be an enemy to yourself. Pass on your will, your wisdom, your intellect, your laughter, your legacy, all the stories, the life lessons. Pass that stuff on, because trust me, it's going to hit real hard or hit real different 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. But even now, enjoy now and just look at it later. And I guarantee you, just like I'm a recipient of what my parents left me, and what those who didn't even know me said about me or passed things on for me, you all will be in that same place where others who really, really love you are going to be recipients of what you pass on. With that being said, hey, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.